Arriving in the mail today, got my new amplifier, and we'll pull the old one out, and we're going to hope that that is the problem, that's the issue, that's the resolve. So let me go ahead and pull that out, and as soon as I get that out and the new one in, I'll bring you back. I have the old amplifier pulled, which then goes without saying that I have the new one in its place. Oh, right there. Came out pretty easy, went in just as easy. Fat and happy. It's the first time I've replaced one of those. And I'm really enjoying my Pace desoldering workstation that I got last year for Christmas. I'm very happy with that. Cannot complain. Learning it. So it is coming along just fine in that category. So I've got that in. Speakers are still connected. Let me plug the power into the isolation transformer. Not going to shift things around. This is really a pain in the backside to do so. Have the switch turned on, and we need to be careful. This 120 volts mains right there. That's our ANSI approved safety towelettes. Alright, I think we are ready. Here we go. That's promising so far. Let's go ahead and give it some volume. Oh, I need to switch it over to FM radio. I think it's that one. Doggone it. Nothing. Let me double check my speakers. Okay, I did find the positive not plugged in, so that might help. Now, I still may have an issue there. I didn't strip the sheathing back far enough, maybe. But we'll find out here real quick. Big red switch. Audio. There we go. Left, right. Left, right. Very cool. Well, I'm glad that was what the problem was. So now the next thing is to put in the super capacitor for the memory backup. we just turned that off. We had that on a frequency. If I plug it, turn it back on, we should, yeah, we reset back to default. So let me grab that and I'll swap that out and I'll bring you back in and we'll see how that works. Okay, I have the old part removed and new part put in. I know it's off to the side of the screen, but again, trying to move this whole mess easy, it's not. But this is where the old part went, or where the part goes. That I just swapped out. Got it laid back down, and we're going to try this again. But before I do that, let me zoom you in real quick. This is the part that I just replaced. I don't know if you test that as a battery or if you test that as a capacitor. But it's a super capacitor, so I would just think it's a capacitor with long-lasting memory. And this is the new part that I just replaced, put in there. As you can see, it does have a positive and a negative, like a battery, like a capacitor. So I would think that it would be treated as a capacitor. Let's go ahead and plug the device back in to our isolation transformer. Got all our rags put back into place. And I don't think none of the wires had fallen out from the speaker. Big red switch. Okay, it did remember our positioning here. I didn't have to toggle. Well, that wouldn't make sense because why would it? The battery was removed. So let's put this on a frequency, any frequency. Still have our oops, now I lost that speaker. I hope that don't mean I just lost that channel. I've done it. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's turn this off and let's see if our memory at least stayed. And here we go. I believe that's where we were. We're not at the bottom of the band, that's for sure. I'll unplug it. Perfect. All right. Now, what's going on with that channel? The amplifier is not hot. Let me reseat my wires and let's check that here in a second. I'm not sure what the issue was. It's working now on both channels. I got a wire antenna hooked up. And it sounds really good. Just using these two vintage Radio Shack bookshelf speakers. They're 10 or 15 watt speakers. So I'm really pleased with that.
On the rebate on all new 2019 Optima plus $2,250 lease cash for $80. To a time plus tax and lawsuits. Let me see. I'm not team. Instantly. 5. Carboiled double deal. Episode. It was a game. I picked up jewelry.
Well, you see that working pretty good there. So. Alright, fantastic. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and clean these switches, these controls, sliders one more time, and then I will piece it all back together and hope it works. When I put the heat sink back on, I'll put some new duck butter on, of course. I'm going to take my time putting the case and everything back together because I want to clean it up some. This is a perfect time in doing that since I do have it apart. So hopefully the next scene it will be assembled. It'll look nice. Probably won't have an AM antenna on it, so we probably won't be able to test AM, but at least at this point the thing is done. I'll give it one last test before I proclaim that it is indeed done once I assemble it. I have it reassembled and I've cleaned it up with some pH neutral cleaner. I haven't yet wiped on any chemical to make it look all shiny and happy and all that good stuff. Got all the debris off the display and it really looks good. I need to do it one more time, but I got 99.9% of the gunk. I tore this control out of there and cleaned the track and cleaned all the junk that was in the grooves. I even put a little lubrication on that. Speaking of lubrication, I lubricated the antenna terminals because they were a little dry. And I hit it with that, a few drops of that. Now it moves pretty good. So just to recap what we done, what happened, one channel was not working, the right channel was not working, the left channel was. I found I believe it was a 100 ohm resistor at the power amplifier that, although was still functioning, was working, it did get rather hot and it was discolored and burnt a really nice big fat hole in the board that went almost all the way through. So the thing had been hot for quite some time before it was either parked or no longer needed. I'm glad that they didn't carry on and do any further damage to it. It's a really, really nice receiver. Even though it's rated at 30 watts per channel, the thing is really, really loud. I replaced the resistor. I did not keep it. I've already thrown that away. Here's the old power amplifier. I may dork one day and just crack that open. If I remember right, there's just transistors and some other supporting components in there. I very seriously doubt that it's a repairable item. Maybe for my own practice, I may try to attempt to do just that. I know some of these I have a lot of epoxy in there, so it may be a moot point. Might not be able to do it. And then the last thing I did was I replaced the memory backup battery, or it's referred to as a super capacitor. This is the first time I've had experience with such a component. I'm really not sure the proper way of testing it. Do I test it as a battery? Do I test it as a capacitor? We will never know the answer to that unless we actually sat down to try it. I'm thinking really all it is just a battery, a rechargeable battery, and it would be tested as such, which would make sense why it goes bad after so many years. So I've got a brand new one in there, and this thing should be good to go for the next 30 years or something. As you see it here completed on the workbench, I have it paired with a tape deck from Radio Shack. It is a SCT-41, and this came out in about 1984 and sold for around $159. And its only purpose, making a cameo in this video, is just so I could test the ports out to make sure everything is functioning well. And I thought I was going to play a copyright-free cassette tape, but it turned out that the tape I had in mind was recognized, and therefore I can't play it in any great length. I have a couple of tapes we'll just sample. We'll also sample the radio. It's going to be just in short bursts. I was kind of hoping, like I said, to be a little bit longer in it, but due to the copyright issue, we won't do that. Speaking of copyright issue, I don't know about you guys, but I've had videos up for the last several years, and here lately with the new bylines and guidelines and all that coming forth, I've had several videos hit with copyright strikes. In fact, I've even taken down one because it gave me a hard strike for a couple months. The others have just been notices, no strikes as of yet. I'm planning on going back and reworking them when I have time to either shorten the audio or remove it all together if plausible. So if you see repeats, you'll understand why. Anyway, onward and awkward with the show. Let's go ahead and give this a sample. At this point, from what I can tell, everything's working fine. I don't have a AM aerial connected. Won't be able to do AM. And I'm really not going to scan through the entire FM band. I will say this. It seems to be really sensitive. I just have this wire that's running up from the back of the terminal straight up to the above camera mount. So we're talking 3.5, maybe a 4-foot piece of wire. And it really seems to do pretty decent off of that. I wouldn't say spectacular, but it does decent. As with most workbenches that have great amount of junk in here, you get a lot of man-made noise from all this electrical junk, and that's exactly what's happening in my realm here. And that's why I haven't really done too many AM radio band scans, is because of such. Anyway, let's go ahead and turn this up. And the speakers that I'm sampling with have connected to the stereo are these Radio Shack speakers that you see here in the background. They're only 10 watt 8 ohm speakers, bookshelf speakers. I've had them forever and a day. I use them as my test speakers, and they work out just fine. The only problem is with them being bookshelf speakers, there's really no, well, at least in these ones, there's no low end. It's all mid-range and high-end. So the stereo is really not sounding to its potential in this environment. As soon as this video is over, I do plan on putting it in line. and hooking it up to some bigger speakers. So I'm hoping that it will sound really good. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. I think this project turned out really well. I'm quite happy the way it happened. I'm glad it wasn't too awfully involved, and I was able to troubleshoot it and resolve the issues. So, fantastic. Even though the stereo was slated at one point in time to be my workbench stereo, the one that's replacing it, I'm going to be rather jazzed with. However, this one, I think wherever I park it, whatever I do with it, it'll be a good stereo just the same, even if at the moment it'll become a dust collector. Well, not immediately. I will put it in line. I will test it out for a good month or two, and just to ensure everything's ducky on it, and then it'll go and collect dust. All right, well, that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Do appreciate it, and definitely want to give a big shout out to Old School. If you're not a subscriber to his channel, ask yourself why not. Old School is pretty awesome. Old School does a lot of stereo projects as such, and he's fantastic at his tutorial, and doesn't get lost, doesn't get you, the viewer, lost. So very easy to follow along and all that good stuff. Likable fella anyway. Go check him out, subscribe, and tell him Jack sent you. That'll do it. Catch you in the next one. See ya.